Now, at this moment, we had crossed a line and we moved from a disgraceful, embarrassing service experience to an unethical experience. What are we talking about today?
We had a really interesting experience last Thursday night, Kris.
Oh my gosh. Are we going to talk about this?
And my intent is not to throw anybody under the bus. I don't like being mean.
I think that we should throw them under the bus and then drive over them and back up and do it again.
No, we're not going to give away any actual names, where the place was. I don't even remember what the place was called.
Can I rhyme their name, or like, can I make it obvious that people can search?
let's do the conscious thing, the conscious creator approach, and say, what can we learn from this experience? Because I think there's a lot we can learn in business, real estate, and just in life in general.
Yeah.
So we got all dolled up. We went out. We took amazing photos.
Oh, you got to break it down.
Utah.
I mean, we had our team. Christine Kosheba came in town with her hubby Miles. Everyone dressed up to the nines. Yep. People all meet in Park City.
She comes in from California. Casey, Marianne, Ryan, all our top managers. Chris Milliner is there.
Oh,
and we bring spouses.
Dude, we had been having some fun. We had just shot shotguns earlier in the day, and we had a really great welcome experience with.
And Kris, you really know how to wine and dine people and make them feel special and like having an amazing experience. So we booked this restaurant.
Yes, someone booked this restaurant
and
with great intentions.
We go to this restaurant, and the server there, she seems
bubbly,
congenial and kind, and we get
seated. This is a nice restaurant in Park City.
It was a nice restaurant in Park City, and we got appetizers, and then like 45 minutes in.
By the way, the cheese curds were
to die for.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I liked the fondue too.
Yeah,
that came out in a steaming hot skillet.
Yeah, so the evening started very promising. Great. And then about 45 minutes in, we start getting this feeling that all of the workers walked out. We got this feeling that, wait, my servers disappeared. The cooks, I don't see anyone over in the kitchen. And all of a sudden it's like, this place seems like it just went ghost town. And I think we went like 90 minutes without
seeing anything. And then she comes out and she says, "Congratulations."
This is the weirdest. This is freaking the weirdest thing.
She says, "Congratulations. Several of you ordered food and you will be getting what you ordered. But some of you will not be getting what you ordered."
And by some, she meant everyone but 4 people at the table.
She said, turns out we only have 2 steaks and only 3 salmon.
Yep.
And so those that ordered, so we need to pick and choose. A few people will get their steaks.
9 people needed to literally
change their order.
And the problem is it was a very limited menu, and people were really struggling with what else they would kind of want.
And so 2 people claimed their steaks, and you had ordered a steak, and you were gracious and were like, "I'll give up the steak and I'll order something else."
I would rather give the steak to one of my people.
And she looked at you and said, "Okay, what will you be having?" And you said...
I said the wild salmon, which of course she had run out of.
She said we were already out of. And what did she call you?
Oh, she said, "You mother effer." And I was like, okay.
All of us laughed, and then she walked away, and we were like, what the crap just happened?
I don't know. Something really got weird. So she comes back, and she starts literally redoing everyone's order, but they can't remember who ordered what. They start swapping the meals around, and they can't keep it straight.
Well, and they keep gifting us. They're like, because we didn't have steak, we brought you more of the pumpkin, whatever, pasta, some more of this and more of that and more drinks to kind of say, sorry, we don't have your option, right? So the table's loading up with food. And what happened then?
Well, first of all, unfortunately, the food, after we did that order, we waited another hour. She's like, the food will be out in 15 minutes. An hour goes by, there's nothing. When the food finally starts coming out, it comes out over a 30-minute, very slow period of time, which means someone's trying to be polite and not eat. And we're like, no, please, listen, this has already gone horrible. You're not getting the food that you want. Something is weird going on here. We've been here for 2.5 hours, and we're ready to be done and go home. And so I'm like, just start eating. So Christine starts digging into her salmon, and it's not cooked. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is sushi. That is sashimi.
Raw salmon.
And then the steaks started coming out, and they were all like overcooked. This is a nice steakhouse, by the way.
But Kris, the good news is they found 2 more steaks.
Yes, they did.
So we ended up with 4 of them.
Yes, they did.
The question is...
So the food started coming out, and everyone is, by the way, voraciously hungry, but no one is eating. And the food is starting to stack up on the table, and people aren't eating it.
Well, because the salmon was undercooked, and the
steak
was overcooked. And when they said they found 2 more steaks, I'm like, where did you find more steak? I'm worried that it fell behind the freezer.
I took you and the other executive out to.
Oh yeah, we went to the Edge.
Oh my gosh!
And we had
that
Japanese
A5 Japanese steak
Wagyu.
Was amazing, like 6 ounces of heaven.
I'm not a steak guy, but I could eat that stuff all day long.
Yeah. So the whole thing ended up being just a total cluster, but it was a cluster that got worse and worse. And as they brought food out, they didn't know who ordered what. No one really knew what they ordered because our choices had been more or less revoked. So people start passing food around. No one wants whatever's being given to them. And we're like, wow, we all dressed up. We've been here for 2.5 hours. People are fighting over not eating the food, but everyone's starving.
And it's about 10 o'clock at this point.
Yeah, and unfortunately in Park City, things start shutting down. So it's like, okay, we can't just ditch and DoorDash because DoorDash won't make it in time. So like, this is it. This is what we got.
So I unfortunately didn't get the steak, and they said they'd get me pizza. And about this time, they brought out the pizza. And the pizza was actually really good.
The pizza, you gave me a slice of it. This was the best, worst experience that I've ever had delivered by a business. But can I tell you what got really crazy?
Yeah.
We're all done at the end of the evening, and they feel horrible. They're apologizing left and right. They're like, please, can we just bring you out dessert? And everyone looks and starts shaking their head. No. Like, no. Like, we don't want to be here for 90 more minutes and have you mess this up. So no, we don't want dessert. She's like, no, please trust me. I can scoop out the gelato. We'll just do gelato. We're like, nope, we're out. Nope, we're leaving. So she says, well, I'll have the manager come over and explain your bill. And I'm personally sitting there and I'm like,
I thought they were going to just say, hey, it's on us tonight.
Well, that's what a restaurant should have done.
Yep.
Everyone's had a bad experience, right? And so that's what should have happened. And so I'm like, why do they want to take my time and explain a bill? So I just tell my team, I'm like, hey guys, I'll take care of this. You guys leave and I'll be down in just a minute. So the woman comes out and she has a $1,000 bill. And she says, hey, I'm so sorry.
Because, by the way, they charged us for all the extra drinks and extra platters.
So all the food that they brought up that no one wanted, they charged it.
They were like, we gave you all this extra food. And we're like, I thought that was to make up for the steaks you didn't have.
Right. So it's a $1,000 bill, which, by the way, I don't mind paying for a good experience. But on this $1,000 bill, she's like, we feel so horrible for X, Y, and Z. We took 10% off. And I looked at her and I said, that is disgraceful. I said, my people flew in town to have an experience and dressed up, and you literally created the best, worst experience I've ever had at a restaurant. The food was horrible. I said, look at the table. Do you see how the food is still on the table? That's because it wasn't edible. People did not like it. Check out that salmon, not cooked. Check out the steaks, overcooked. Like, this was 100% unacceptable. And then she started throwing out excuses. She said, well, normally we only have a couple of couples come in an evening. And I looked at her and I said, why on earth would you accept a reservation? She says, I'm not in charge of reservations. Got it. You're passing the buck on to someone else on your company. And so I looked at her and I said, listen, I need to go. I need to get out of here. If you charge me anything, I think it's a 100% absolute disgrace. But do what you need to do. So she said, sir, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will cut the bill in half. And I basically gave her a look that said, well, that's awful rotten of you, but go ahead. Fine. Charge half. She comes back a minute later, and she only took 30% off. Now, at this moment, we had crossed a line, and we moved from a disgraceful, embarrassing service experience to an unethical experience. And I looked at her and my mind was immediately thinking, yep, we're going to do this thing. It's called a chargeback. This is where I'm going to contact the credit card company and I'm going to make sure that you don't receive a benefit for having done something horrible and purely a waste of my team's time.
Technically, she ran our card without our permission.
Correct.
Because she told us she was charging us 50% and charged us 70%.
Correct.
That is fraud.
That's fraud. So that, I have no idea why you're bringing this up. We're just having so much fun getting into the dirties of an amazing, awesome, miserable experience that our team is already starting to laugh big time about. There's a part of me that's like, wow, you realize that the best experiences of life literally come from when you can laugh at a horrible experience that wasn't actually all that damaging, right?
The reason I'm bringing this up, Kris, is because a lot of our listeners are in business, are in the game of making money, are all about this dance of trading value for dollars.
Yeah.
And there's so much to learn from this experience that we had about how things can go awry, because they're going to.
Yep.
I don't know. I wonder if after they brought us our appetizers, I wonder if they walked in the back and a cook was like, I'm done, threw off his apron and walked out.
That could have happened.
That could have happened, right? And I'm
You
not
could
gonna,
have had a novice cooking steak that
Yeah.
had no idea what they were doing.
And so they just pulled whoever was available and said, start cooking. Like that happens in business.
Yep.
And I'm not ever going to fault anybody for having to go through a tough situation. The question is, what type of person do you become when a curveball or an obstacle or something hairy gets thrown your way? And I mean, we all look at this experience that we had at the restaurant, and what's our fear? Like, we hope that our clients never have an experience like that.
It is amazing. It has already bred so many beautiful conversations about literally almost even starting a department. We're planning on starting a department that has one job. It's called WOW. It's literally blow people away, go so far above and beyond that you create a shocker reputation in the industry. And there are companies like Zappos, by the way, that have done that. Tony Hsieh, before he died, he was behind Zappos before it got acquired by Amazon. And his book, Delivering Happiness, is literally training customer support to be so powerful that they will do anything you want for them, even if it's outside of their job description. He has this famous story he tells of hanging out with a bunch of his buddies at night, and some of them are wasted and drunken. It's like 2 a.m. And they're like, hey, Tony, you're like, I want a pizza really bad. Let's call Zappos to get pizza. He's like, you're crazy. Zappos is where people buy shoes online. He's like, I know, but you got the best customer service.
What are they going to do?
And he's like, so he was curious. He's like, well, let's try it. So literally, the woman calls up customer support at Zappos and orders a pizza. And the person, literally without skipping a beat, starts going online and says, oh, you know, all these places are closed. Your favorite place is closed. But guess what? I found 3 stores. This one's closest to you. Would you like for me to put in a call? What kind of pizza do you want? And literally ordered on their behalf and paid for it a pepperoni pizza that showed up 30 minutes later. And the story made such an impression on me because I realized that any company that can create that level of support to their clientele is going to be known for it in the best of ways and create an incredible reputation.
Well, and what Zappos did is they really understood their standards. So they put a line in the sand where they said, when is a customer trying to take advantage of us? And we don't cross that line. But other than that, when somebody calls up, they empower their people to make judgment calls and say, what can I do to help this customer?
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
It's really inspiring. So now I look at that experience that we had at the restaurant and I'm like, what? There's so many ways that you could have adjusted expectations and shifted things along the way to make it a different experience.
I did a little training exercise once with members of our team. I brought them to my house, very intimate, beautiful setting. And I said, guys, we're going to have this contest. I had 4 of them step forward. And I gave them each one of those quick squeeze applesauce packets. Like for kids, where you just...
I was one of them, Kris.
Squeeze it in your mouth. And they're like, great. This is an applesauce eating contest. I'm going to crush this because we've all done it. You can squeeze it into your mouth in one gulp and you can down that sucker. You were one of the 4.
Nick, and I think Max.
And you guys took your applesauces, and unbeknownst to them, I'm so evil, I had filled them with warm water. I had cleaned out the applesauce, I put warm water in, and I said, on your marks, get set. And before I could hardly say go, everyone was chugging, and 2 of the 4 spewed their hot liquid water everywhere. And it was because they expected one thing, but they got something different. And it's amazing what happens when you have an expectation that goes unmet. We've all been in a relationship, or if you've been in love, you know what it's like when an expectation was created that then wasn't met. And people react differently. Some people are forgiving. Some people on the opposite end of the spectrum are crazy grudge holders. And then you got everything in the middle, right? But often it requires an apology and a correction. And part of correcting means that you have to create a restorative experience. You have to restore what was lost. For example, did you buy something and the $100 was wasted, and could you replace it with another $100 item? In our situation with this food, like the woman literally, if she really was like, hey, we're in a situation where we can't afford to let you leave without paying, then the right thing that she should have done is said what food was actually consumed and appreciated, and I would have said the hors d'oeuvres. and the drinks. If you want to charge me for the hors d'oeuvres, I would have said, I respect that. I respect that. But if you're in a position, you literally should say, it's on us that we suck. We did not do our part. We wasted your evening, so we're not going to charge you anything. I've seen restaurants do that.
Imagine also, they knew out of the gate that they were hosting more people than they thought they could handle.
And they should have
So
canceled
imagine
the
if the
reservation.
server came up to us at the very beginning and said, look, you guys are an abnormally large party for us, and I just want to be upfront with you that there are some dishes that take longer to cook than others.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is recommend the menu items that we can prepare quickest to make sure you guys aren't here until 10 o'clock
That's called
at night.
adjusting expectations before you make a mistake.
Right.
And that's the best thing that a business can do.
When I think about the applesauce experience,
Yes.
the funny thing
Be honest. Your experience, how did it go down?
I froze with it in my mouth and just like looked around like, am I the only one that has
Water.
water?
You didn't even know probably what it was. You're like, there's weird liquid.
Because you didn't clean out the pouches very well, by the way. So it was like applesauce, watery, icky stuff.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
But yeah, I was like, am I being punked and everybody else? Like, what's going on? But I thought about it, Kris, because guess what? Warm water isn't bad,
No.
right? If I had ordered tea, I would have expected warm water and I wouldn't be upset at all.
Yeah. But
The
you're
difference was
expecting-
I was expecting applesauce
Yep.
and got warm water.
Well, and I have to tell you, I mean, I'm just going to own it. Some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in business was not when I created a train wreck because I didn't deliver on what was promised. It's when I found out that I needed to change what was being delivered. And so what I did is I added way more value. And then when I went to the person and told them, hey, we can't do this, but we're going to do this and we're going to give you way more, guess how it was still treated? It was treated like a black eye.
Yep.
It was treated like something bad. And I learned, I'm like, once you open your mouth and you make an expectation, there's no going back from it. And people will hold on to that for years.
Yep. Well, and truth be told, this applies to more than just business.
Marriage, relationships,
that's what I was
body,
gonna go,
health.
dude.
What doesn't it apply to?
Relationships. I mean, a relationship is an exchange. It's an
Yep.
exchange of value.
Dude, this
of
last
time.
week, my wife and I, so check it out. For my birthday, my wife had a really special, intimate experience lined up for me. And she had talked about it and had this plan for this wonderful, beautiful evening. And my birthday kind of lasted over 3 days, right? My birthday was on Friday. We did some cool stuff on Thursday. And anyway, by the time we got around, I mean, dude, it was a wild birthday. It was wild. It was definitely like a rich boy's birthday. I mean, dude, we rented a private jet, went to Vegas and blew stuff up at that place in Vegas where you get to drive tanks and flamethrowers and shoot tens of thousands of dollars of ammunition. We had this crazy time. It was really, really fun. So Sunday night rolls around and like I'm getting ready for bow chicka wow wow. Like this is gonna be great. My wife has talked this up so big, but something disturbing had happened also over the weekend, and she was not really in the mood. So I'm like, you know what? I get it. I totally get it. Let's postpone. Let's go Monday. Let's go tomorrow. But that same thing that happened over the weekend got worse, and on Monday I wasn't in the mood. Well, by the time Tuesday rolls around, I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to feel a little jilted, even jaded, because there was this experience and there had been a lot of good communication about, well, what was going to go down. And so Tuesday didn't work out. Well, we get around to Thursday. Thursday, we had both talked about, okay, Thursday's the night. Thursday rolls around and something else came up.
Oh, geez.
And so literally, I'm lying in bed with my wife Saturday morning. I'm like, how did we get here? And so we took an opportunity to learn that intimacy is kind of like a business department. It can be run a certain way. And we started extracting some lessons, and we replayed with different communication tools what Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday would have looked like with different tools of conversation. And we both agreed that like, wow, if we had, based on what we've learned, we wouldn't have had a problem if we had to relive this again. In other words, whatever isn't growing is dying. We are meant to grow. We're meant to get better. And that is 100% true of businesses, because business can be cutthroat, ruthless. It is only the top 1% that get rewarded with like 100x of growth. If you're in the top 90%, dude, you're sucking wind like so many others in the rest of your competition. You don't deserve to be in business unless in your niche you can dominate and be the best. And that's already right there. That's a huge statement out of a planet of nearly 8 billion people and only so many businesses. But we found that to be true in a relationship, that once an expectation was set and unmet, There's consequences. Now, Glenn and I have been married for almost 20 years. So we were both really there was no...
A lot of communication.
There was a lot of communication. There was no emotional baggage that got created through the experience just because we've learned along the way. And so I felt grateful for that. But guess what? We learned something new. And already just in the last few days, that new has brought about way better results. So I have to also say that sometimes when you screw up an expectation, the only true screw up, there are two of them. Number one is if you don't restore what was lost completely. And then number two, if you don't learn. Because I promise you, Murphy's Law, right? Murphy is alive and well. If it happens once, it'll happen 10 times. If it can happen, it will happen. That's what Murphy's Law means. And in business, there's a lot of unforeseeable consequences. There's things that happen that you didn't know could happen. And if you don't learn, you're not meant to be in business. You have to be the most adaptable, evolutionary human being, visionary of your company that says, hey, when, not if, things don't go according to plan, we will learn and come back 10x stronger.